I wonder what would happen if I was to start early. I mean, if I was to start a live stream like 2 or 3 minutes before the appointed time, what would happen? Would people actually arrive, or would they be sort of hearing the notification saying, "What's going on here? My kettle is just boiling. I haven't made my tea yet or poured a brew." Oh wait, there we are. Hello. Good evening, my friends. Welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. I'm Anthony Murphy. This is Live Irish Myths, episode number 191. Tonight, we are returning to the topic of classical mythology. And we started last week, and we already had seen some comparisons, some similarities between the myths of the Greeks, particularly, and the Romans, and those of Irish. We're going to continue that exploration this evening. I am streaming simultaneously on the Mythical Ireland YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Mythical Ireland, and also on the Mythical Ireland Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Mythical Ireland. If you are watching, please do feel free to comment. We love to say hello to people and give them a big, warm Irish Céad Míle Fáilte. I have the window and the door of the library open simply because it's very warm in the Boyne Valley this evening. It's completely overcast at the moment. It's very muggy. So I may, at some point, if there's noise, I will close them. But anyway, for the moment, we shall proceed. Who is in the house? We are saying hello to Anne Scott Doherty, is the first of the commenters tonight. Anne is in Southern Oregon, not in County Clare. And I've had the pleasure of meeting Anne on several occasions in Ireland. Stephen O'Hara is watching. Stephen, a very good evening to you and welcome to... Oh, hang on, there's so many comments all of a sudden. Oh, wow, that's a good complaint, actually. Arcastronomy Database, Ty. Hello, Ty. Welcome. Good afternoon to you. Rex Fortenberry is saying Banach the Iontach Zeus from Louisiana. A very good afternoon to you, Rex. Welcome to the library. Joe Butler is in Colorado. Hello, Auntie Joe. Shared to Mythical Ireland community pages. Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much, Joe, for that kind and diligent service, as always. Donna Jean Porter says there's flooding in North Texas. Wow. Really? Is that because the ground is really dry? Yeah, we had a lot of rain this morning, but farmers are all saying it's badly needed. So Bernie Courtney says hello, and 3 times hello, thrice even. I've not been here for a while, mea culpa, but I'm here now. That's okay, Bernie. You're very, very welcome. And of course, don't forget, if you've missed us, all of the episodes are archived on both the YouTube channel and on the Facebook page, so you can watch them back if you so wish. Helen Hirsch Chatter is watching from the Black Hills of South Dakota. A very good afternoon to you, Helen. Welcome. SGD is in California. Good evening, SG Space D. I hope that you're in good form. Welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. Donna Jean Porter is saying, breaking old records. Not sure I know what that means. Apologies. Maureen Joyce is in a muggy Lexington, Kentucky. And here we see that the weather theme always plays out, similar weather, Mandy McCurl is saying hello from a still midge-ridden Isle of Mull. Oh, yeah. Oh, dear. That's one thing about the weather. There is a proliferation of insects. I think the swallows are very, very happy about that. Barbara Murphy, G-Rive, everyone, welcome. And hello from Tucson, Arizona. Hello, Barbara. It's always a great pleasure to welcome another Murphy into the house. Mariana Dunn is saying hello from sunny Virginia. Hello, Mariana. A good afternoon to you. Anne McCallum is looking forward to part 2 today. Well, I don't know about everyone else. I'm in good form. And hopefully, if you're not in good form, Live Irish Myths will put you in good form. Britt Griffin is saying hello from Cobalt in Northern Ontario. Hope all is well with everyone. Looking forward to the episode, Anthony. My chickens are having a warm day too. How is that for egg production? Charlie Grover is saying greetings. Charlie, a very good day or good afternoon to you. Hope you're keeping well. Nick Eska Casterton is in the house. We have welcome rain here over at the moment and a little cooler, says Nick. Yeah. I believe it's been very, very hot in Britain, particularly in southern England, for the last while. Jason has finally made it on time today. Yeah, and I was a couple of minutes early. You're very welcome. The full Irish Gary saying, another fine day on the sod, which is exactly how he introduced himself to me at Ishnock, and I knew exactly who it was when he said it. Donna Jean Porter says 7+ inches overnight, and today rain. Wow. That sounds biblical. We'll be talking about flooding momentarily. Wow. Adina Sparks is saying hello to the wonderful Tua. Hello, Adina. Wet today in New Mexico. And also, we're hearing in Texas where there's flooding. Maybe it's welcome, maybe it's not. If it was in slightly more spread out volumes, it might be easier. Wayne Bird is in the house. Hope your weather is better. Ours is showers, and in other areas, floods. Do you know anybody building an ark? As it happens, we are about to talk about flood mythology. Alan Hoskins is in Ballina, Killaloe. Hope all well. Hello, Alan. Hope all is well. I wonder, are you doing any framing this evening while watching the episode? Salav is in the house. Giagwich Makara, August Giagwich Kach Dina O Hirogan. Or in English, hello, my friend, and God be with you, everyone from the county of Tyrone. John Main is in the house, watching from Belmullet in County Mayo. Hoping everyone is doing well. It's a damp and overcast evening here. What a change, John, eh? Hopefully you'll get that big change soon. And you'll be saying the opposite every time. You'll be saying sunny today, sunny warm, dry, sunny warm, dry. And Anne's got dirty. I'm seeing again. Sorry, Stephen Hara, I'm seeing again. Wow, okay. Seeing a repeat of earlier comments. Okay, strange. Okay, let me scroll even. Yes, scroll on down. Anya Ryan is in this watching from my sick bed. COVID finally caught up on me. Oh no! But on the plus side, if you get it, it will give you some immunity, and you won't get it again for a while. I hope that you're not too poorly with it. The fact that you're even sitting watching is, I think, a good sign. So you're welcome, and get well soon from all of us. Sue Prenter is looking forward to part 2 after much rain today. There is blue sky above. Rain seems to be a theme in today's weather. Rain and muggy. Maureen is saying, I hope Tom is in the house. I haven't seen him so far, but that doesn't mean he's not here. Anne McCallum saying, hi, Tom King. Good to see you here. So he obviously is here. And a lot of people saying best wishes to Anya, which is lovely. Kevin Miller, hey, everyone, how's your day? Pretty good so far. Kevin, I was touring today. I had a lovely group of people, and we were at Newgrange and Nouth, and in the afternoon, Douth, and we had a lovely, lovely day. Tom King is indeed in the house. Hello there, Anthony. And friends of the tour, hope all in good fettle. It's story time again, and the dram is topped up. Enjoy. Brilliant stuff, Tom. Hope you're forging away. I really just love the thought. There's just something mythological or mystical or heartwarming, actually. I picture that warm forge, especially in the colder evenings and the dark evenings, That'll be a source, I think, of great comfort to us all, picturing that forge through the winter time, The Chalach of Shliashel. And good stuff. Lots of advice. Drink lots of fluids, Anya, but maybe just not so much whiskey. But you can have that afterwards, Yvette says she ordered the Usborne mythology book, the children's book. It hasn't arrived yet. Ease on into the subject. Yeah, isn't that beautiful? I may show that again before the episode is out. Ben Davis is saying, hello, Mythical Ireland from a wet North Texas. This is really incredible. Most of the time, the people watching from Texas are watching from a sunny, hot, dry Texas. That's incredible. Adele Perth, good morning, Adele. A very, very good morning to you. And welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. Jason says, my son has COVID for the 3rd time. Oh, dear. Hopefully, it'll hardly affect him now because he's got hopefully good immunity to it. Bernardine Rooney O'Mengala is in Owl's Head in Maine. Hello, Bernardine. Good evening, good afternoon. Erica Bow. Hello, Erica. You are very, very welcome to this live stream. It is always a great pleasure to see you. Michael Trott is in Surrey on the way to Ireland in September. So know the weather. Well, the weather will be you'll probably bring it with you. So if it's sunny where you are, bring it with you. Definitely do that. Astro is saying it's sunny and cool in southern Indiana. Slán, folks. Are you away already? Bye. Oh, that was quick. Kevin Miller, sorry to hear that. Milk and honey and cinnamon works on the pain. Lots of people saying hello to Tom and sending wishes to Anya, which is lovely. Erica says, still waiting for rain in my area of Texas. Of course, we forget that Texas is a big state, and just as you speak, the rain is starting to fall here in the Boyne Valley. And lots and lots of people saying lots and lots of things to lots and lots of other people, which is lovely. Anyway, let's go, shall we? Let's dip into it. So last week, we were talking about that comparison between the story of how Zeus got really angry with the behavior of mankind and decided that he would blot out the human race. And at first they counseled among them, the gods on Mount Olympus. They counseled the idea of burning the earth, but somebody said, well, hang on a second, maybe the flames will reach up to your dwelling place. So he rejected that plan, and they decided to wash mankind off the face of the earth by a mighty flood. The winds were instructed. I'm just going to recap, read one paragraph that we did read last week before we start again. The winds were instructed to gather the rain clouds over the earth. Poseidon let loose the waves of the sea, bidding them rise, overflow, and deluge the land. We have, in the Boyne Valley mythology, we have right here in County Louth, the very ancient place name for County Louth is my Muirhevna, the plain of Muirhevna. Muirhevna meaning the plain covered by the sea from the time that it was under the water and flooded. According to one myth in Tuchmark Emera, which I have referred to in my book Mythical Ireland. Pardon me, I've got to sneeze. The great deity, the chief deity Dagda, took his great club to a monster that was under the water of Muirhevna, which I think is a version of the Mata myth, and he clubbed it and killed it, causing the waves to recede until dry land was seen again. No sooner had the gods spoken than the elements obeyed. The winds blew, the rain fell in torrents. Lakes, seas, rivers, and oceans broke their bonds, and terrified mortals, forgetting their petty quarrels in a common impulse to flee from the death which threatened them, climbed the highest mountains, clung to uprooted trees, and even took refuge in the light skiffs they had constructed in happier days. Their efforts were all in vain, however, for the waters rose higher and higher, overtook them one after another in their ineffectual efforts to escape, closed over the homes where they might have been so happy, and drowned their last despairing cries in their seething depths. Another thing I should mention is that the sort of chronological pseudo-history of Ireland, which was constructed by the monks in Lower Gawala, suggests that the creation myth of Ireland is very directly connected with that creation myth that we see in the Bible, which is the flood, the great flood, the flood of Noah, which is the best known version of this flood myth. But this flood myth is found in diverse cultures in their mythologies all around the world, from the American continent to the African continent to the Eurasian continent to the Polynesian islands. So the story is that Kezer, the granddaughter of Noah, was refused entry to the ark by her grandfather and told to come to a place where there would be no... There's a dog barking in the distance, and Coda is answering this side. So Kezer was told or advised by Noah to go to a place where there was no people, there were no humans living, because there were no people, there would be no sin, and therefore that place would not be subjected to God's wrathful judgment. I won't tell you what happens, but there is a version of that story in my novel, The Cry of the Sebach, or the Shawach, which is the cry of the hawk. And that is based on the story of Fintan mac Bócra, who is the sole survivor in Irish mythology of that great flood. So maybe that's something you're interested in. Signed copies available to buy on my website, mythicalireland.com. First plug of the night. So we begin with Deucalion and Pyrrha. The rain continued to fall until, after many days, the waves covered all the surface of the earth except the summit of Mount Parnassus, the highest peak in Greece. On this mountain, surrounded by the ever-rising flood, stood the son of Prometheus, Deucalion, with his faithful wife Pyrrha, a daughter of Epimetheus and Pandora. Just bear with me for a second, folks. I'm trying to figure this out before I utter that I word. Hang on, right? Deucalion was a son of Prometheus. He was married to Pyrrha, who is a daughter of Epimetheus. Prometheus and Epimetheus are brothers. Is this a form of incest? I had to read that twice. I'm sure that we said last week that Prometheus and Epimetheus were brothers. Prometheus and Epimetheus, meaning, was it forethought and afterthought, or foresight and aftersight? So one brother's son was married to the other brother's daughter. Yeah, that's definitely a form of incest, isn't it? Anyway, I do apologise. Getting Adina Sparks is in the house again. No, I did say hello. Sheila Gunn is the one who's late. That's all right, Sheila. We'll forgive you on this occasion. You're very welcome. Make yourself comfortable. Anyway, from thence they, the sole survivors, viewed the universal desolation with tear-dimmed eyes. In a world of wicked mortals, these two had lived righteously. Sounds very biblical, doesn't it? And when Zeus saw them there alone, I loved saying that, Zeus, not Zeus, Zeus. It sounds, I don't know, this just sounds something very refined about it, Zeus saw them there alone and remembered their goodness. He decided not to include them in the general destruction. How very nice of him. But to save their lives. He therefore bade the winds return to their cave and the rain to cease. Poseidon blew a resounding blast upon his conch shell to recall the wandering waves, which immediately returned within their usual bounds. Deucalion and Pyrrha followed the receding waves step by step down the mountainside. Fantastic. Jane Wynn is in the house. Hello, Jane. Don't apologise. No Brone Zone. You're very, very welcome. Just catching up in case I missed. Indira is in the house. Sláinte, Indira, hope you are in good form. Welcome to the library. Antarctica is blowing in and it's freezing and stormy. Wow. I had this idea that Australia was always warm and dry, and there you go. I mean, how wrong I am. Anyway, let's go. Deborah Williams is in the house. Hello, Deborah. Fulce. And this is from Ovid. At length the world was all restored to view, but desolate and of a sickly hue. Nature beheld herself and stood aghast, a dismal desert and a silent waste. Love 30 deuce. Anyone for tennis? Never fall in love with a tennis player, because love means nothing to them. As they talked upon how they should repeople the desolate earth, they came to the shrine of Delphi, the dwelling of a famous oracle, which alone had been able to resist the force of the waves. Now, remember that Delphi and Ishnak kind of share a similarity in that, Delphi was seen as the center, or the omphalos, the navel of the world. And in a way, Eru was an oracle in the Irish, in the Laura Gawala, because when the Milesians, I think we said this before, but when the Milesians came to Ireland, one by one they encountered the trio of tutelary or guardian goddesses, Banba, Fola, and Eru. But when Amergin and his brothers arrived at Ishnok at the Stone of Divisions, before anybody had spoken, Eru said, "Long has your coming been foretold by the soothsayers." In other words, the prognosticators, they had seen it in the omens. And she said, "Yours shall be this island forever." Before Amergin ever spoke a word, she was already telling them that they would be victorious. Now, they later had to meet the three kings, Macoel, Macecht, and Magrania, and the deal reached there was go back out to sea by a distance of 9 waves, and if you can land again, we let you have the island. And I won't spoil it if you haven't heard it, but there's lots about it in previous episodes. So in a way, I suggest, and I haven't written about this, but this is obviously something I need to sort of redress. I think that, Eru was something of an oracle. There they entered to consult the wishes of the gods. Their surprise and horror were unbounded, however, when a voice exclaimed, quote, "Depart from hence with veiled heads, and cast your mother's bones behind you," unquote. Sorry, exclamation mark, unquote. To obey such a command seemed nothing less than sacrilege, for the dead had always been held in deep veneration by the Greeks, and the desecration of a grave was considered a heinous crime and punished accordingly. But they reasoned the gods' oracles can seldom be accepted in a literal sense, and Deucalion, after due thought, explained to Pyrrha what he conceived to be the meaning of this mysterious command. Let me just catch up on the comments. Catherine Woodruff is slipping into the room quietly. Hello, Catherine. Welcome. Good afternoon. Ali GSIL is in the house. Made it late, but made it. Come here. That's better late than never. And who Gadarn, and I'm very unsure about my pronunciation. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Robin Edgar is also watching. A very good afternoon, Robin. And we'll have lots of eclipse talk all of a sudden. Always fascinating. The earth, said he, is the mother of all, and the stones may be considered her bones. Husband and wife speedily decided to act upon this theory and continued their descent, casting stones behind them. All those thrown by Deucalion were immediately changed into men, while those cast by Pyrrha became women. What we have here now is a synthesis or a combination of creation stories, because the flood and the destruction wreaked by it, and the survival of, in this, in many cases, a lone couple, a man and a woman who repopulate the earth, with also this sort of, I suppose, rather than them conceiving children together, they're throwing stones, and these stones are transformed into men and women. Slightly different, I suppose, two creation myths in one, as it were. Tarini Pendleton is watching from Laguna Beach in California. Good afternoon to you and welcome. And who Gadarn says, "Sounded good to me, lol." I don't know if that means that sounded good to me, or that sounded good to me. No, it didn't. Yes, indeed. Thus, the earth was peopled for the second time with a race of good men sent to replace the wicked beings slain by Zeus. Doesn't mention the women. Apologies. Deucalion and Pyrrha shortly after became the happy parents of a son named Helen. Interesting, because Helen we would normally consider as a woman's name, but this is Hellen, who gave his name to all the Hellenic or Greek race. While his sons Aeolus and Doros and grandsons Ion and Achaeus became the ancestors of the Aeolian, Dorian, Ionian, and Archaean nations. I hope I have the pronunciations right. I remember in classical studies, my classical studies teacher, and that would be between 30 and 35 years ago. Had a wonderful command of all these pronunciations. If I forget some of them, I do apologize. Other mythologists, in treating of the flood myths, state that Deucalion and Pyrrha took refuge in an ark, which, after sailing about for many days, was stranded on the top of Mount Parnassus. This version was far less popular with the Greeks, although it betrays still more plainly the common source whence all these myths are derived. And again, there's a huge discussion about that subject among mythologists around the world and others. Our friend C.G. Jung suggested that major archetypes and themes of mythology can and do and did arise spontaneously and simultaneously from something he called the collective unconscious. Hello, Barb Jordan. Hello, Paul Campbell. I don't think I said hello to Paul Campbell. Very good afternoon. So this chapter is called Chapter 2 and begins with our friend Zeus. Zeus, Jupiter, or Jove, the all-highest thunderer, king of the gods, supreme ruler of the universe, the special deity of mankind, the personification of the sky and of all the phenomena of the air with which he shares some attributes, or which Dagda shares some of those attributes, and maybe Lu as well, and the guardian of political order and peace, was the most prominent of all the Olympian divinities. The others were obliged to submit to his will and trembled at his all-powerful nod. This is from Homer. He whose all-conscious eyes the world behold, the eternal thunderer sat, enthroned in gold. High heaven the footstool of his feet he makes, and wide beneath him all Olympus shakes. He spoke, and awful bends his sable brows, shakes his ambrosial curls, and gives the nod, the stamp of fate and sanction of the god. High heaven with trembling the dread signal took, and all Olympus to the centre shook. That's the end of the Homer quote. The fates and destiny alone dared oppose his sovereign will, and they continued to issue their irrevocable decrees even after he supplanted his father and began to rule over all. In common with all other Greek and Roman divinities, Zeus, though immortal, was subject to pleasure, pain, grief, and anger, and a prey to all the passions which rule the hearts of men. Which is why we say, don't we, from various religions, one in particular, that man was made in the image of God, and that has prompted some writers to suggest that maybe God was made in the image of man. And I'm reading a book at the moment, and it's actually up at the bedside because I was reading it last night about the anatomy of God, which is fascinating. It was he who presided at the councils held on the top of many-peaked Olympus, and summoned the gods whenever he wished to discuss with them any matter of importance, or to indulge in a banquet, when they ate the celestial ambrosia and quaffed the fragrant nectar. He is generally represented as a tall, majestic figure with long curling hair and beard, clad in flowing drapery, his redoubtable thunderbolts or scepter in one hand and a statue of victory in the other. Sometimes he is seen wearing a breastplate of storm cloud, quote, like the skin of a grey goat, unquote. The world is his footstool, and the eagle, emblem of strength and power, is usually seen close beside him. His oracle was at Dodona in an oak grove, where his priests interpreted the sounds made by the rustling of the branches. Just catching up with the comments again. Karen Faye O'Loughlin is saying, late greetings from a sunny, not as hot Boulder, Colorado. Well, maybe that's providing you with a bit of relief, Karen. Very best wishes to you and good afternoon from the Boyne Valley. Zeus had his own special attendants, such as Nike. I don't know, is that Nike? I can't remember how to pronounce that properly. Brackets Victoria, the goddess of victory, who was ever ready to obey his slightest behest. I think it's Nike, isn't it? And it is said her master loved her so dearly that he generally held an image of her in his hand. His cupbearer was Hebe. The Hebe Jeebies. Hebe. Um, well, so he had a special attendant who he was in love with, basically. Jupiter, the Roman form of Zeus, was often represented as being attended by Fama, the goddess of fame, with a trumpet in her hand, or by Fortuna, the goddess of chance, with her wheel. Just do it, Anthony says. Office care. Peter. Yes, Peter, I will just do it. Anna L is in Balbriggan a bit late today, but spent a lovely day excavating Dromana. Brilliant stuff. Tell us more. Fascinating. Excavating. Wonderful. Brilliant, brilliant. It happened that Zeus found himself in need of a cupbearer to replace Hebe, who had become the wife of the hero Heracles. This is fascinating because we have cupbearers in Irish mythology. We meet them, Nectan's cupbearers at Nectan's well, and we always wonder, don't we? Or at least the scholars of Irish mythology and medieval Irish manuscripts would wonder whether this is just a copy of an idea from the Greek myths. He assumed the form of an eagle and winged his flight over the earth. He had not flown far before he beheld a youth of marvelous beauty, alone on Mount Ida. To swoop down, catch him up in his mighty talons, and bear him safely off to Olympus was but a moment's work. And we think of the giant bird. I can't remember the name of it in Lord of the Rings. Um, you know, um, can't remember the name of the giant bird in Lord of the Rings. Carrying Frodo. And there the kidnapped youth Ganymede the son of a king of Troy, was carefully instructed in the duties he was called upon to perform. Hephaestus, or Vulcan, is also represented as acting sometimes as cupbearer at the Olympian banquets. Big Bird, I think, is Hugh Godern's answer. It's not Sesame Street, Hugh. It's Lord of the Rings. Philemon and Baucis. Baucis. No, I think it's Baucis. It's Baucis, isn't it? Yes, it is. I'm pretty sure it's like it's C pronounced as an S. Manway. Never mind. As centuries passed, Zeus seems to have become less resentful of his attitude towards the human race. Thank God for that, by Jove. Sometimes he would assume the outward aspect of a mortal and descend from Olympus to mingle unrecognized with mankind. Wow. On one such occasion, accompanied by Hermes, also disguised, the all highest journeyed through the land of Phrygia. Pretending to be poor wayfarers, they knocked at the doors of many houses, but not one was open to them. That sounds biblical in a way, doesn't it? No room at the inn. There you go. Mary Keogh is in County Tipperary. Hello, Mary. Good evening to you. I hope it is not raining and it's a nice evening in County Tublador. Annette Peard is in the house. Hello, Annette, from the Hill of Tara. Annette, a very, very, very good evening to you. Are you taking Jove's name in vain, Anthony? No, I just said by Jove. All I said was that halibut was good enough for Jehovah. Never mind. Pretending to be wayfarers, they knocked at the doors of many houses, but not one was open to them. At last, however, they reached the thatched hut of a good old couple called Philemon and Baucis, and there they received a courteous and kindly welcome. Philemon drew forward a bench for them to sit on. Baucis brought them a beechwood bowl of water that they might wash their hands. Who threw that? Right. Are there any women here today? No. And this will suddenly become an episode of Monty Python. I apologize. Straight on with the story, folks. Then the old woman raked out the fire, heaped on more fuel, and began to prepare a simple supper of pot herbs and bacon. Hang on a second, bacon isn't simple. Salted pork, bacon, wow. The table had one leg shorter than the other three, but a slab of slate was slipped underneath to keep it from wobbling. Baucis, well, glad to see that Philemon and Baucis had the usual domestic uh, issues, that, those small things that plague everyday life, those small little problems, of a wobbly table. Baucis wiped the top with some sweet smelling leaves and then set forth the earthenware dishes and pitchers and the wooden cups, which were all she had. For supper, she gave the travellers olives, cornel berries preserved in vinegar, radishes, and cheese, and eggs cooked in the hot ashes. I mean, hang on a second here. This is no frugal meal. This is a full-on banquet. Then stewed bacon followed, and by way of dessert, apples and wild honey. I mean, for goodness sake, all they're missing is a glass of wine. Wine, not very old or rare, washed down the simple repast. I love it. That was brilliant. Presently, yes, this very simple meal of bacon, honey, cheese, eggs, yeah, etc., 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 and wine. Yes, yes, yes. This is all we have. I apologize. Presently, Philemon and Baucis noticed with surprise that as fast as they emptied the pitcher, it filled itself up again with wine. Now, that is the kind of wine jug that I really like. It's a bit like, you ever notice when you're at a restaurant, and you order wine and you drink from it, and all of a sudden it's full again, and you drink it again and it's full again? It's, wow, how does that happen? Brilliant stuff. A little bit like Dagda's cauldron, full of ale, never goes dry. Realizing that their guests were not mortals like themselves, the good old couple fell on their knees, craving pardon for the poverty of the meal. What? Seriously? The only thing that they could think of to make it better was to kill the old and probably tough goose, which they kept rather as a pet than with any culinary intentions. Your goose is cooked. Let me just catch up on any comments, if there are any. Quite here, the Windward is the eagle's name. Thank you, Rex. Not Big Bird from Sesame Street. I'm glad. You're only making it worse for yourself. I'm not sure if I had said hello to Robert Friend. Hello, Robert. You're only making it worse. You've been sentenced to death. How could it be any worse? Anna Liffey says, good evening. I've been here all along, but I've been busy casting Mythical Ireland onto my television. You are now larger than life, Anthony. Warts and all. Well, what do you know? Very good. What size is the TV? I hope it's not, that. Never mind. But the goose, you make my head bigger. That's what my wife would tell me. But the goose had other views and strenuously resisted all attempts at capture. Finally, it took refuge between the two gods, who declared that it should not be sacrificed. They had less pity, however, upon the inhospitable village, where no one had been willing to give them shelter for the night. This they drowned in a deep lake, only the spot where the house of Philemon and Baucis stood being raised above the waters. Well, again, a shocking sub-aqua end for those unpleasant villagers who would not open their doors to the nightly wanderers. Not sure whether it was nighttime, in fairness. So it's Zeus and Hermes and Philemon and Baucis. Yes, 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 yes. This house Zeus changed into a magnificent temple, of which he decreed that Philemon and Baucis should henceforth be the priest and priestess. Quote, "Oh, good old man," unquote, said the god to them. Quote, "And you, woman, worthy of such a husband, speak, what boon do you ask of us?" Unquote. The two took counsel for a short space and then told Zeus that they had but one wish between them, that their lives might end at, quote, one and the same hour, unquote. Lovely. Very romantic. The prayer was granted. After ministering in the temple for many years, they were suddenly changed into two trees, an oak and a linden. These trees, Ovid tells us, the Tyanean shepherd still shows growing side by side. And I'm just wondering um, if this may be related to that theme that we met in the story of the sorrow of Deirdre and Naoise, of the twining branches of the trees, because when they die, the trees grow out of their graves and their branches meet overhead. Although married to Hera, Zeus often indulged in love affairs with other goddesses, the absolute scoundrel. It doesn't say that bit there. And even with mortal women, whom he wooed in various disguises. The rapscallion. The ancients did not demand a high standard of conduct from their gods, to whom they ascribed the passions and foibles of quite ordinary men. Hence, it follows that worship and veneration, as the Jew and the Christian understood them, were outside the ken of the pagan world. And then we're into the story of Europa. Kathy May is in the house on her lunch hour. Hello, Kathy May. A very good afternoon to you. I hope the lunch is a nice one. I hope it's equally as good as the meal served up to Zeus and Hermes by Philemon and Baucis, which they apologized for the frugality of, but which seems to have been a very fine meal with an inexhaustible supply of wine. Maybe not because you're at work, maybe not the inexhaustible supply of wine, Kathy May, but you know, the rest. The honey and the bacon and the olives. Hera being of a very jealous disposition, Zeus was forced to conduct his courtships with great secrecy, and therefore generally adopted the precaution of a disguise. Clip-on beard. Don't you want to haggle? Sorry, I apologize. Yeah. To win Europa, the fair daughter of Agenor, or is it Agenor? I'll say Agenor for now because I don't know. King of Phoenicia, for instance, he became a bull. And this is from Shakespeare. The gods themselves, humbling their deities to love, have taken the shapes of beasts upon them. Jupiter became a bull and bellowed. I don't know what that's from. Is that from one of his sonnets, or is that from a play? I'm not sure. I do not know. Somebody will know, I hope. One of our very learned Shakespearean scholars who's watching will tell us what that is from. I have the entire Shakespeare works here in one volume, but I'm not willing to flick through all 1,200 pages of it looking for the answer. I hope you forgive me for that. Not too bad. No wine at work, says Kathy May. Damn. Well. For the moment, it'll have to be an inexhaustible supply of water. Katie Brogan has been here, but driving. Now at a party with the girls. Lovely day. Brilliant stuff, Katie. A very good afternoon to you. Welcome to the live stream. Just catching up on the comments. One day, Europa was playing in her father's meadows, gathering flowers with other young maidens, when she suddenly saw a white bull coming towards her, not with fiery eyes and lowered horns, but gently, as if to express a mute request to be stroked. Delighted, she patted the beast and decked him with bright garlands of meadow blossoms. Then, seeing him kneel as if to invite her to mount, she lightly sprang upon his broad back, calling to her companions to follow her example. But before they could do as she wished, the bull had risen to his feet and galloped off towards the sea with the fair burden on its back. Sheila has to watch later as the signal is blipping out and in with the storm. Oh dear. Well, hopefully you'll be able to watch it without interruption later. Dora Snedden. Hello, Dora. A very good afternoon to you. Welcome to the live stream. Instead of turning when he saw the foam-crested waves, he plunged into the midst of them, and in a few minutes disappeared. So rapidly did he swim away. To reassure the frightened girl, the bull now spoke in gentle accents, bidding her dismiss all fear. As Zeus swam through the waves, dolphins sported round him. Nereides riding on the back. Apologies. I again unsure of the pronunciation. Nereides. 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 Riding on the backs of sea monsters rose from the salt spray while the tritons blew a cheerful blast on their conch shells. Europa, clinging to one of the bull's horns and holding up the hem of a purple gown lest it should be stained with seawater, spoke thus in her amazement. Whither dost thou bear me? In other words, where are you taking me? In a colloquial accent. What manner of beast art thou? What kind of animal are you? That fearest not the path of the sea dwellers, that you're not scared of the ocean. Surely thou art some god. You must be a god. Fear not, maiden, answered the bull god. Lo, I am Zeus, and it is for thy love that I breast the waves in the shape of a bull. The island of Crete shall be our dwelling and thy home. In Crete, therefore, Europa dwelt, and there she bore 3 sons, Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Sarpedon. The eldest became king of Crete, and after his death, together with the second son, set as judge in the land of shadows. The youngest, Sarpedon, fell in the Trojan War. Agenor, whose favourite Europa had always been, rent his garments in grief and bade his sons Phoenix, Cilix, and is it Cilix or Cilix? And now I'm going to say Cadmus. They both begin with C. Well, let's say Cilix for the moment. Go forth and seek her, and not to return till they had found her. Accompanied by their mother, Telephassa, they immediately set out on their journey, inquiring of all they met if they had seen their sister. Search and inquiry proved equally fruitless. At last, weary of this hopeless quest, Phoenix refused his further aid. Cilix too lost heart and settled in a fertile country which they had reached, hence called Cilicia. Cilicia? Cilicia. I think it's probably pronounced with an S sound. And finally, Telephassa, worn out with grief and fatigue, lay down to die, charging her eldest son to go on alone. Give me one moment till I Google it. Cilix. Nobody's helping me here with the pronunciations. You're all either asleep or you don't know. Yes, it begins with an S. Cilix. It's an S sound. Okay, my mistake. S. I will make sure to say that from now on. So, and finally, Telephassa, worn out with grief and fatigue, lay down to die, charging her eldest son to go on alone. Cadmus wandered on till he came to Delphi, where he consulted the oracle. But the only reply he received was, quote, there where you shall see a young heifer stop in the grass, build a city and call it Boeotia, Boeotia, unquote. In deep perplexity, he left the temple and from the force of habit journeyed on, patiently questioning all he met. Soon he perceived a cow leisurely walking in front of him, and, mindful of the oracle, he ceased his search and followed her. Urged by curiosity, many adventurers joined him on the way. Think of Forrest Gump running across America. And when the cow at last lay down in the land since called Boeotia, I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm really apologetic for some of the pronunciations. They all promised to aid Cadmus, their chosen leader, to found their future capital, thereafterwards called Thebes. Cadmus, desiring to make a sacrifice to the gods, sent his men to a spring not far away. Time passed, and they did not return. Armed with his trusty sword, Cadmus finally went down to the spring to discover the cause of their delay, and found that they had all been devoured by a huge dragon which lived in the hollow. And this is a theme of mythology in which a dragon or a beast, a great fearsome creature, guards a water source. The prince raised his sword to avenge their death and, in the real manner of a hero, slew the creature with one blow. Fantastic. George and the Dragon, eh? Thank you, Alison. That's a nice bit of encouragement. Yes, I'm having to Google some of them. It's not easy. I mean, the Irish ones I think are easier for me, even the ones that I haven't heard of. Sometimes, you know. Nora Gaffney O'Connor is in the house. Hello there. You slipped in quietly. No, you didn't really, because you said hello. I hope you're in good form, Nora. You're very, very welcome to the live stream. As always, you are. While Cadmus stood there contemplating his lifeless foe, a voice bade him extract the dragon's teeth and sow them in the ground, already broken for this future city. No human being was within sight, so Cadmus knew the order proceeded from the immortal gods and immediately prepared to obey it. The dragon's teeth were no sooner planted than a crop of men sprang from the soil, full grown and armed to the teeth. No pun intended. No, he says that. That's what it says in the book, armed to the teeth. They were about to fall upon Cadmus when the same voice bade him cast a stone in the midst of their close drawn phalanx. Cadmus, seeing the men were almost upon him and that no time was to be lost, quickly threw a stone. The effect produced was almost instantaneous, for the warriors, each fancying it had been thrown by his neighbour, began fighting among themselves. Who was it who said earlier on, in a manner of the oracle, seeing into the future, right, who threw that? Who threw that? In a few minutes, the number of armed men was reduced to 5, who sheathed their blood-stained weapons and humbly tendered their services to Cadmus. With their aid, the foundations of the city were laid, but their labour was not very arduous, as the gods caused some of the public buildings to rise up out of the ground, all complete and ready for use. How very nice of them. To reward Cadmus for his faithful search for Europa, Zeus gave him the hand of the fair prince Hermione, a daughter of Ares and Aphrodite, in marriage. Hermione Granger. Never mind. All good, thanks. Brilliant stuff. Somebody's going to sleep. I think that's Robin. Apparently, Robin's tired. Robin, go to bed and watch the end later. Cadmus, the founder of Thebes, is supposed to have invented the alphabet and introduced its use into Greece. Although his career was very prosperous at first, he finally incurred the wrath of the gods by forgetting, on a solemn occasion, to offer them a suitable sacrifice, and in anger they changed him and Hermione into huge serpents. Zeus was very widely and generally worshipped by the ancients, and his principal temples, the capital at Rome and the shrine of Jupiter Ammon in Libya, were world renowned. His also was the famous temple at Dodona, where an oak tree gave forth mysterious prophecies, which were supposed to have been inspired by the king of the gods. This long lost shrine has now been discovered. This is from Byron. Oh, where, Dodona, is thine aged grove, prophetic fount and oracle divine? What valley echoed the response of Jove? What trace remaineth of the thunderer's shrine? All, all forgotten? Question mark. Kolosov, indeed, to Robin Edgar. Heather is trying to help me, I think, with a spelling. Biausha. What was that one for? Oh, genie macros. Or is that someone else you're talking to? Or is that, is that something I was trying to pronounce a while back? Oh, yes, okay. Biosha. 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 Boeotia. Yeah, let me just scribble that down. Is it ow? Biosha. You have OW, ow, rather than O as in OH. Biosha. Biosha? Is that right? Biosha? Please, if I have it right. Thank you, Heather Marie, for your help. A magnificent temple at Olympia on the Peloponnesus was also dedicated to Zeus. And here, every 5th year, the people of Greece were wont to assemble to celebrate games in honor of his great victory over the Titans. These festivals were known as the Olympic Games, and the Greeks generally reckoned time by Olympiads, that is to say, by the space of time between the celebrations. Within the temple at Olympia stood a wonderful statue of gold and ivory, the work of Phidias, one of the most famous sculptors of the antique world. Its proportions and beauty were such that it was counted one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. It is said, too, that the artist, having completed this masterpiece, longed for some sign of approval from heaven and fervently prayed for a token that the gods accepted his labor. Zeus, in answer to this prayer, sent a vivid flash of lightning which played about the colossal image, illuminating it, but leaving it quite unharmed. Fascinating stuff, I think you'll agree. There is a short chapter about Hera, so I think I will continue because we're not even on the hour yet, so I think I will continue. Heather is saying from Google. Yes, I probably could have Googled it myself. You know, why didn't I do that? Says you. Boeotia. 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 Let me see if there's a pronunciation. Oh, there is. Yes.
Boeotia.
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 Boeotia. That's definitely an English translation.
Boeotia.
Boeotia. Okay. Boeotia. So it's more like OH. B-O-H. I would say OW is ow. You know. Karen Murphy Beglin is in the house. Hello, Karen. You're very welcome to Live Irish Myths. You are late, but you know, almost by an hour. But like, you know, who cares? We were talking about magnificent feasts and endless supplies of wine. We were. Hera, Juno. So the ones in brackets are obviously the Roman versions. Hera is her Greek name. Was the daughter of Cronus and Rhea, and spent her childhood with Oceanus and Tethys in the far-off western regions of the sea. She grew up very beautiful, and when Zeus had usurped the throne of the heavens, he decided that she should be his queen. I mean, he decided, you know, that she should be. Not they mutually decided to be partners or, you know, spouses or husband and wife. No, he decided that he was having her one way or the other. Adrian and Karen have arrived in very, very late. Have to watch on YouTube later. Yes, indeed. What is your excuse? You don't. You were feasting on bacon and olives and cheese and an inexhaustible supply of wine. That's okay. That's allowed. Perfectly okay. They were married in the garden of the gods, and in honor of the occasion, a marvelous tree bearing apples of gold sprang out of the earth. These were the apples of the Hesperides, of which we shall hear more later. Golden apples, yes. The Song of Wandering Aengus, anyone? And though I've wandered through hollow lands and hilly lands, I will find out where she has gone, and kiss her lips and hold her hands and take her hands and pluck till time and times are done. The silver apples of the moon, the golden apples of the sun. Yes, indeed. Brilliant. I should know. I know that one off by heart, that whole poem. I'm a bit rusty. I do apologize. Hera was honored. Any chance you could revisit the Irish poets again? Can't remember if it was a book talk or a Live Irish Myths episode. Yeah, possibly. Maybe, of course. Yeah, always willing to explore things. We should probably assemble a list rather than just end up talking about Yeats for the whole hour, you know. Yeah, absolutely. Hera was honoured as the Queen of Heaven and also as the patroness of all marriages, human and divine. In Shakespeare's Tempest, she is represented under her Roman name of Juno as showering blessings on the wedding of Ferdinand and Miranda. Her sandals, her chariot, and her throne were all of pure gold, and the cow, the cuckoo, and the peacock were sacred to her, Juno and the peacock. In art, she is represented as a handsome matronly figure, and Homer refers to her as the ox-eyed goddess. Have you done Ulysses? I've talked about it, I think, maybe in the Ireland Reads live streams that I did. Ulysses. What I would really have to do with Ulysses is find the work of someone like it is a Declan Kyberd or one of those who's written about, who's dissected those aspects that are derived from mythology. But no, haven't really done Ulysses other than to do a bit of a reading from it. Proud, revengeful, and jealous, Hera resented the fickleness of her husband's affections and was wont to break her revenge on any being, mortal or divine, upon whom he looked with too much favour. She had her own messenger, the fleet-footed Iris, whose name means rainbow, and whose track through the clouds was marked by the colours of her many-coloured mantle as she sped upon Hera's errands. The Greeks honoured Hera, especially at Argos, Sparta, and Mycenae. Though the family tree of the Olympian deities is often complicated and even contradictory, hey, meet the two of the Danann genealogies. Most mythologists agree that she had 3 children: Ares, Mars, the god of war, Hebe, and Hephaestus, or Vulcan. The story of Io, one of the 7 mortals of whom Hera was not unreasonably jealous, was the maiden Io, a daughter of the river god Inachus. Zeus, anxious to elude the watchful eyes of his queen, changed Io into a sleek and beautiful heifer when he saw Hera descending through the dense cloud which he had created to hide his whereabouts. Oh, some boyo, huh? To cover his tracks, in other words, while he sought out a concubine. Questioned as to the beast, he deceitfully replied that he had just created it from the earth, whereupon Hera begged that he would give his newest creation to her. Clever, clever. Even the kings of gods dare not refuse such a simple and natural request. Poor Io, still in the form of a cow, was led away and left to graze on a riverbank in the care of one of Hera's servants, the many-eyed Argus, who never closed more than 2 of his numerous eyes at one time. Sounds a bit weird, but anyway, you know. Meantime, the river god, her father, had been lamenting the disappearance of his daughter. Barky McBarkface, whom he did not recognize until he noticed the young heifer scratching the name Io with her hoof on the riverbank. Unfortunately, Argus found the 2 of them together and drove Inachus away. Yeah, they're barking. Yes. Some dogs are barking in the distance, Coda, and you absolutely must bark back because why? Because that's what dogs do, you know? It's like, could we get that dog translating machine, you know? What are they actually saying? Hello, hello. And he said, hello, hello, how are you? I'm grand, how are you? Have you been fed today? Yeah, I got loads. Well, we haven't had anything. Zeus now decided that in order to release Io, it was necessary to get rid of her many-eyed guardian. Yes, indeed. This task he entrusted to Hermes, who disguised himself as a shepherd and, blowing a dreamy air upon his reed pipes, drove his flock towards the pasture where Argus sat watching over Io. Dogs having the chats. Yes, Nora, having the bants. Absolutely. Argus, charmed by the music, listened with delight, but even then would not shut all his eyes at once. Hermes accordingly hit upon the idea of lulling him asleep with a story instead of a song. The story he told is the one relating how the nymph Syrinx. Oh, I apologize, I'm sorry. Too much time in the sun and the fresh air today. Fleeing from the goat-footed god Pan, was changed into a tuft of reeds. As he hearkened, Argus grew drowsy, and at last he had not a single eye open. Hermes, perceiving this, slew him and set Io free, though he was not able to break the spell laid upon her by the vindictive queen of heaven. Hera, indignant at the slaying of her faithful servant, took the eyes of Argus with which to adorn the tail of her favourite bird, the peacock. She then sent a fierce gadfly to sting poor Io, who, maddened by pain, plunged into the sea afterwards, called in her honour the Ionian Sea. Heather Marie Leaning is about to read Hesiod Cosmos by Jenny Strauss Clay and has provided a link in the chat for that. Sounds interesting. Absolutely. Thank you. And here's a quote from Elizabeth Barrett Browning. In coming time, that hollow of the sea shall bear the name Ionian and present a monument of Io's passage through unto all mortals. And Milton in Paradise Lost, describing the watchful cherubim, thus alludes to the myth of Argus. Spangled with eyes more numerous than those of Argus and more wakeful than to drowse, charmed with Arcadian pipe, the pastoral reed of Hermes or his opiate rod. Opiates, folks. Wow. Poor Io, after long wanderings, reached the land of Egypt, when, at the earnest prayer of Zeus, Hera restored her to her human form. Wow. Thank you for that, says her. Thank you for restoring me to human form, after all, in the land of Egypt. What was I going to say? There is a newspaper in County Louth called the Dundalk Argus, Argus. And I wonder if the name of that newspaper derives. That was originally a newspaper in Drogheda, believe it or not, called the Drogheda Argus. I wonder, does it derive? And the idea being that the Argus has eyes watching everything, like a newspaper should do, report on all happenings in the locality. Callisto, another maiden whom Zeus admired and of whom Hera felt jealous, was the young huntress Callisto of Arcadia. To her a son was born who received the name of Arcas, and from whom the people of Arcadia claimed descent. The resentful Hera changed Callisto into a she-bear, and in that form the one-time free and happy huntress led a harassed existence in the wild wood, equally terrified of human hunters and of the wild beasts whom she herself now resembled. At last, after many years, as one of these hunters drew near her, spear in hand, she recognized him as her son Arcas and opened her arms to embrace him. Arcas, not unnaturally alarmed, raised his spear, but before he could touch her, Zeus intervened. Even the king of the gods could not undo the spell worked by the queen and give Callisto back her original shape, but he could and did change both the she-bear and the young huntsman into constellations, groups of stars known to the ancients and to ourselves as the Great Bear and the Little Bear. According to another story, the youth became the star Arcturus. Wow. Nice. Apologies while I quickly look up a pronunciation on Google. I apologize. This one's awkward. I'm serious. I don't know this one. So it's Cydippe.
Sidip.
Sidip. Sidip.
Sidip. Sidip.
Why is she saying ep? It's IPPE. Sidip, obviously. No?
Sidip.
Sidep, apparently. Let's try YouTube.
Sidip. Sidip.
Those YouTube ones, a lot of them are rubbish. If somebody's just typed it into a reader and it's just robotically saying Sidip. Okay, let's try Sidip, and if anybody's going to argue with that, well, see me afterwards. Monica is saying hello from Switzerland. Good evening, Monica. Good night to you. You're very, very welcome. There you go, Solve, and we will undoubtedly encounter Aesculapius in our ventures through the world of classical mythology. Elizabeth is saying hello from Poland. A very good evening, Elizabeth. You're very welcome to Live Irish Myths. I hope you are well. Sidip and her sons. That Hera was not always represented in mythology as being cruel and implacable is shown by the story of her priestess, Sidip. This priestess had two sons, Biton and Cleobus. When they beheld the earnest desire of the aged mother to journey into the land of Argos and to venerate the new magnificent gold and ivory statue of the goddess in the temple there, these young men yoked themselves to her chariot and dragged it thither. This they did because they had not been able to provide the white oxen which tradition demanded. The whole family were received with honour at Argos, and the high priest suggested that Sidip should draw near the marvellous image and offer prayers before it. This the priestess was glad to do, as it enabled her to beg Hera to bestow upon the two pious youths, quote, the greatest of all gifts, unquote. What that gift would be, she can hardly have foreseen, for it was death. The goddess descended from heaven and bore away the souls of Cleobus and his brother to the Elysian fields, the abode of the happy dead. And before we finish this evening, I want to show you some of my collection of books about Greek and classical mythology, because they are bloody numerous, as are my books about Irish and Celtic mythology. Bonnie Denny is saying, greetings from the Northwoods of Wisconsin. Hello, Bonnie. You're very welcome to Live Irish Myths. We are nearly finished this episode, but don't worry. For all of those who weren't able to make it for the start or only able to watch part of the episode, the whole thing, when we're finished, will be immediately available on YouTube and on Facebook. Let me just show you for a moment some of these books. Oh, okay. So these are just some, right? This is all I can carry for this moment in time. Cassell Dictionary of Classical Mythology, edited by or compiled by Jenny March. Very comprehensive piece of work. 420 odd pages. I'm just trying to see, published in 1998. That one. The Complete Encyclopedia of Greek Mythology, the World of the Greek Gods and Heroes in Words and Pictures. That's edited or compiled by Goose Hootzager, and I do apologize for my terrible pronunciation of that name. And again, this one extremely well illustrated with photographs and illustrations. Really, really very, very, very well illustrated. Who's Who in Classical Mythology? Michael Grant and John Hazel. And this was first published in 1973 and reprinted in several editions since, this one being 2006. A very comprehensive, again, like a dictionary, reading from A to Z, which means that they save the best, or the best known to last in the case of Zeus. Very comprehensive hardback work running to 370 pages. The Golden Age of Myth and Legend by Thomas Bulfinch, which is a much older publication. Bulfinch published originally in, this one 1985, but I'm just trying to find whether there's an indication of when it was originally published. Bulfinch lived from 1796 to 1867. So yeah, it's a 19th century work. And I remember Joseph Campbell being interviewed and talking about how he got The Hero with a Thousand Faces, the book deal, which I think was Hero was his first book, wasn't it? And it was a major hit. And he said that he had approached a publisher, and the publisher said, "You want to do something about mythology? Do you want to do a bullfinch?" And he said, "No, I don't want to do a bullfinch. I want to do something completely different." That's what he did. This is called Greece and Rome, Myths and Legends. This looks like it's... oh, yes. So this is actually the same, the one that I've been reading from. This is Gerber. So the Gerber book, again, This is a 1985 publication, but based on something much, much older. Can I find out when it was originally? This one is a facsimile reprint. So the one that I've been reading from is not a facsimile reprint. This one is. Where did we finish? Just as a matter of interest, I want to see, are they sort of identical? We finished with the end of chapter 3. And we were talking about Sidip and her sons. I just want to see if it is. It should be. I can't imagine that it isn't word for word. Chapter 3, Juno, the consort of Jupiter. Given us Juno rather than Hera first. So that looks like it might be different. In fact, let me just check that. Go back, Anthony, for a moment. Apologies. Chapter 2, Zeus. Where's chapter 3? Hera. It's called Juno here. Okay, so there are apparently some differences. One published for an audience that prefers the Roman first and the Greek in brackets. The other published for the audience that likes the Greek first with the Roman in brackets. Sidip and her sons. Let me just see. Minerva or Athena. And you know, the whole family were. Okay, it's actually not exactly the same. It looks like it might be a slight rewrite. There you go. Anyway, so that's another version of Huerber. I hope I got that pronunciation right. The Greeks, Their Life and Customs by E. Gould and W. Conner, which looks like it's one of those Senate reprints of an older work. Yes, indeed. Published in 1994 by Senate. But the typography, because it's a facsimile reprint, makes it look like it's much, much older, which it undoubtedly is. And it's one of those books with line drawings, illustrations. Myths and Legends of Egypt, Lewis Spence. Again, that's another one of those Senate reprints. Modern reprint of an older book. Again, not sure of the original date. First published 1915, this edition 1998. Crete and Pre-Hellenic Myths and Legends, and that's by Donald A. Mackenzie. First published in 1917, this edition 1995 by Senate. Loads of stuff. I mean, when it comes to the classical mythology, there's literally tons of stuff, and it's available. I mean, these reprints of old works are available very cheaply. This is not necessarily distinctly. No, this isn't classical. This is more broad. Myths, Gods, Heroes, and Saviors by Leonard Bialas. And then we have Robert Graves, The Golden Fleece, and we mentioned last week the Greek myths in 2 volumes by Robert Graves. So there you have it. That's just a selection, by the way. There are more. And also, I did say I might give you one more look at the Usborne Book of Greek Myths, which was mentioned earlier. Somebody has ordered it, which is really a beautiful, beautiful piece of work. Yes, written for children, but to be honest with you, as I kind of said before, if you wanted to familiarize yourself or refamiliarize yourself with classical mythology, you could do worse than to read the children's version, because it will give you like a summarized. You can learn it quicker and easier. I mean, trust me, Graves's 2-volume work is brilliant. It's a brilliant work of scholarship, but it's heavy going. You know, it really is. Anyway, that a Shinné on scale, Machargagalair or Fud na Crinne. I hope that you're all a lawn saucer, and I hope that we can. Ruth McGilligan is saying hello, Ruth. Hello and goodbye, because we have reached the end of tonight's episode. But as I said, not to fear. If you want to watch the whole thing back, it will be ready to be watched on YouTube and on Facebook pretty much instantly after we finish the episode. So we're going to continue on this theme for a while. There are similarities, and that's what I really want to do, is where there are similarities with Irish and Celtic mythology, that we will try to make those comparisons, you know, where I see them, and maybe when you see them, please, absolutely, bring them to our attention. Anyway, what time of the night is it? It is 20 past almost. Well, it's 17 minutes past 9. We're an hour and 17 into 18 now into the event, into the live stream. I hope to see you all very soon. Don't forget to keep an eye on everything on the Mythical Ireland social media channels. If you're on Facebook, we're on Facebook on the main page and also on the Mythical Ireland community, which last week crossed the 20,000 members or followers mark. We're also on Instagram as Mythical Ireland and also on Twitter as Mythical Ireland. Subscribe. If you're on YouTube, do hit the subscribe button. Do give it the old thumbs up and like if you liked it. Thank you, Yvette Tillema. Very nice of you and great to see you as always. And the other thing is, please do also do consider becoming a patron. This is the patron address here, patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. Lots of extras there for the patrons, exclusive photographs, blog posts, podcasts, videos, etc., etc., etc. And a look at my new book, which I'm currently writing. Good night. Iontak Anthony Goramila Mahagut Slongafol Toga Buge Kolosov. You've basically taken those words out of my mouth, except for what? Well, there's one missing. Ikawa. No, you said that. Oh no, you didn't. Ikawa Slongafol Kolosov Toga Buge. That's the most important one, isn't it? Take it easy. It's my Angelga Usaj. Yeah, I don't have enough to speak fluently, but I'm doing my best and really would like to kind of get to that stage, to be honest. But I will in time. Thanks, Tom. Tom King still has the forge lit in Bohermeen, the forge of the smooth road, Shliashel, one of the old routes to Tara, and the flame reaching into the sky there as the smith continues his great work. I enjoyed that so much. Thank you, Salif. Yes, indeed. Great to see you, as always. Great supporter of the live streams. And Robert Friend, amazing. Yes, good. It's good for me to re-immerse my stuff. It's 30 years. It's more than 30 years since I was taught this in school, and I forget a lot of it, to be honest. I really do. And it's important for somebody studying mythology, even in an Irish context, to have that comparison, you know. Have a great day. If you're in the States, have a great day. If you're in Europe, have a great night. If you're in Australia, have a great morning and a great afternoon. In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. All the very best. Toga Buge, Slongafol.